Hello all, welcome to a new episode of GitHub Copilot. In today's episode, we are looking at refactoring approaches. In one of the previous episodes, we covered some of the areas of refactoring. There are a number of approaches. We covered some of the approaches. In today's demo, we will be covering how we can use refactoring of the code with the help of Copilot, following some of the patterns like the guard close or the decompose method or consolidation, different approaches. And also we'll look on the Bumpy road code complexity pattern where the codes goes into the different ups and downs which add the maintainability issues. And at the end, if we know the refactoring approach, it's very easy for us to convert the code into a particular approach or take the help of Copilot. So how we can identify the corresponding approach? Can the Copilot comes and help us in that area? So that will be the last portion. So without further ado, let me go directly into the demo. So I will be showing the demo using JavaScripts today, starting with the first one, the get payment amount. If you observe here, there are multiple if-else conditions. This can be optimized with a proper refactoring approach. The concern here is even though the result get the dead amount here itself, but still the system will execute until the return comes. So there is no need for the system to wait till the return. If the result is available, it can return immediately. So how we can use the guard pattern here for refactoring this one? So let me take the help of Copilot to optimize my code using guard pattern, or you can say the guard clauses. So what I am expecting is it should return early instead of waiting for completion of all the settings, all kind of things. So as you observe here, the guard pattern is applied and the refactored code is returning the value whenever it's encountered the value. It's not going for an assignment then returning at the end of the things. So a proper return in the middle enforce, and it's helped me to return when I found the result kind of thing. This is one pattern we can use for optimizing the code in terms of even performance and the understanding element. So looking at this, I can immediately understand what exactly the code is doing instead of going with the multiple if else loops kind of thing. So let us move to the second approach that is called decomposing. So how we can decompose the code into multiple levels. It's again dealing with the readability aspects. When it comes to multiple conditions in an if statement or a detailed expression calculation, it takes a little time for us to understand what exactly it meant. Instead of that, if the condition is very simple, straightforward, I can understand the flow a little better. So that's a decomposition pattern will help. So let me see how I can make it more readable. Make it more readable using decomposing condition. Let me put the condition first. I will come to the calculation later. So it goes and decompose the condition angle, and even it decomposed even the calculation also. Good. So while looking at this particular code, I can understand that if it is summer, return the summer charges. If it is no, return the regular charges. So the function is readable, understood, clearly defined. Inside the is summer, there is a calculation how the summer is calculated based on the date, range and everything. That is segregated as a separate function, so that the main function flow will be clear to the developer by looking at the function itself. There is no need for understanding each of the conditions and come up with what exactly this condition meant kind of thing. Even the calculation, if I look here the calculation, I need to understand what exactly mean by this regular rate, regular service charge to understand what's the charge. Instead of that, if I am returning the regular charge, if it is not summer, it's straightforward, it's more readable format. So if you want to improve your readability, improve the way the conditions and expressions are generated, then go for the decomposition approach. You can decompose the method into multiple methods so that the main method will be more structured and readable format. So let us move to the next one. I have the check employees here. It's a simple method. If you observe looking at this itself, you know that in each of the condition I am returning the same value. Then why we need to 3 different conditional checkings? So it's a simple refactoring. So for refactor my code by consolidating conditions. So it's a simple approach. You can consolidate multiple conditions. Even this can be applied for a inner condition kind of thing. If you have one condition nested within another condition, you can use this consolidation approach, which will combine multiple conditions into a single condition and ensure that it looks more readable or more maintainable kind of thing. Otherwise, if the conditions change, I need to change the condition everywhere for returning 0. Instead of that, in one condition, we can combine together and ensure that it's done properly. So before going to the Bumpy road code example, let me take you to few of the other refactoring approaches. So if I look at the first one here, based on a condition, I am returning an error code. Sometimes returning this kind of -23 or some of the error code, it's not explicit. When a different developer who maintain the code or who read the codes, he may think that -23 is a predefined value or a value associated with XYZ things. It's not an error code kind of thing. In such situation, it's better to refactor such code using error code with exception handling. So let me check whether Copilot will be able to help me in such situation. Replace my code with, or replace the error code. Okay, let me go with my code with exception handling. Let me see whether it's able to understand the error code needs to be replaced with exception handling. So I'm waiting for Copilot to think and give me the details. So if the data is not there, if there is no data, it's throw an exception. So it's done a proper exception handling here. Instead of returning -23, if you have a error code of -23, you can associate here along with this error itself instead of defining it as a simple number kind of returns. So this is more readable, and looking at this, the developer can understand that if there is no value in data, return an error. Otherwise, return a shipping rules related to that particular data. Now the same in the exception handling world itself. If I look at the next one, here actually I'm looking at a file handling. So if the file is not there, it needs to return a file not found exception. Sometimes the exception is good, but sometimes we need to have a pre-check to avoid such exceptions. So always look for pre-check approaches. So let me see whether the Copilot will be able to help me here to replace this exception with a pre-check. So I am asking Copilot, replace the exception with pre-check. So a check before the condition, ensure that the exception is not done. Instead of the throwing an exception, it's always good to have a condition which checks the exception scenario and take it properly. Now I'm looking for replacing the exception with a file pre-check. So as you can observe that this exception, the file not found exception, is replaced with a file exists kind of pre-check. It's ensure that whether the file exists or not. If it is not, return a condition instead of returning a exception. So we are dealing with replacing the exception with pre-check kind of thing. That's the next way of refactoring. Now let us move to the next one, where a for loop is there, which used for a conditional push of the names. So let us see how we can use a link kind of thing, a conditional pipeline kind of thing. Instead of looping through these things, it can be replaced using or refactored using a pipeline. So let me see how I can refactor my code using pipeline. So that's another approach. Any for loop or a looping construct which is conditional based, then you can replace it using a pipeline approach, especially when you need to filter out of a set of inputs kind of thing. It's better to use the pipeline instead of continuously looping through the things. So this the filtering approach or the pipeline approach. It's replaced using a pipeline approach. This another way of refactoring. So based on your code base, you can define or you can get which particular refactor approach is more appropriate for your code base. So let us quickly see two more different approaches, then move back to the bumpy road. Okay, so next one is there is a set of for loop with inner loops for conditions. So this can be this kind of same data is compared with multiple values. One is if can be replaced with a switch statement. Another approach is we can replace this using or refactor it using a substitute method. Refactor using substitute algorithm. So instead of going through check each of these values one by one, we can use a substitute algorithm to refactor it properly. So as you can see that it's defined the values as an array, and you check at once if the array one of the indexes in the people list is matching with any element in the array, return that one. So it's a one-time checking kind of thing. That's a substitute method, especially when you have a for loop or a loop with inner conditions which match multiple values. You can go for a substitute approach. Next one is simple. You can refactor using maintainability. So let us see how we can refactor both the methods. Till now we went with one method at a time. Here I am selecting two methods and I am asking for refactor my code for maintenance. So maintenance means any future changes needs to be accommodated properly. It can be done by myself or my fellow developer. So how it take that refactoring approach? Cool. It's able to do it properly in terms of identifying there is a need for the exception handling or the value conditions, whatever the numbers you pass before constructing any expressions, have a pre-check to ensure that there is a proper error validation or exception handling is done. And in case it's done, define the expression. In the expression, use the global constants instead of hard-coded values. Today I did the Celsius calculation using these two numbers. Maybe the Fahrenheit scale or offset may change, or my fellow developer may not be aware, or the person who is doing the maintenance may misinterpret these numbers wrongly. Then the calculations can go in a toss. Instead of that, define all the constants with a proper constant name which call out what exactly this constant mean. So that will be a will help you into a maintainable code creation kind of thing. So let us quickly see the Bumpy Road example also. Bumpy Road is nothing but you have multiple if loops. It's related to cyclomatic complexity, where you have cyclomatic complexity define how many levels you went inside. So this level 1, level 2, you went level 3, and this is level 4 kind of thing, or level 3. So it's defined that way. So this define the complexity angle. On top of that, it's not only the cyclomatic complexity means sometimes even though levels may be less like level 1 or 2, still you have multiple if conditions, up and downs kind of thing. That is Bumpy Road exception complexity pattern. So how to reduce that? Is Copilot is able to identify this kind of concern and help us to refactor this code properly. So I am taking this one, asking Copilot to how to address the Bumpy Road pattern in my code. So let us see how Copilot is able to identify the pattern name and come up with a proper explanation and rewriting my code in a better way. So it's done a refactoring into multiple methods and combined together to reduce the Bumpy Road elements. So you have check for letter A. I think this if statement went to one of the function. The process character, that is the inner method, that went to another function. Input length, so it looks like the length calculation in less than 5. This one, I think this particular calculation is, or this is greater than 5. So the else, this portion is went to another method. And you have the overall process input, which integrate all these aspects one after the other in a proper way. So it's given an explanation also what exactly meant by Bumpy Road, how you can fix it, and even if I need a documentation on top of that, I can take the help of Copilot to document my code also for more readability angle. Now the question is, we did all these things. How we identify the refactoring pattern requirements? So if it is a senior developer who is having a lot of experience in refactoring, he may understand while looking at the code, okay, this approach will be more suitable for my code base. So sometimes we may not able to identify what exactly the refactoring approach you need to take it up. So let us ask Copilot whether it can suggest me a better approach. What is the approach suitable for refactoring my code? So we applied for the find person substitute algorithm. So let me see whether Copilot is going to give me the same recommendation. Cool. It's able to recommend a proper refactoring approach. So take the help of Copilot, not only refactor your code, but review your code in terms of what will be the better refactoring approach you can take it up. Once the suggestion comes to you, you can implement accordingly. So let us see one more thing. Here we have done a replacement earlier, or go ahead with this one itself. What is the refactoring approach suitable for my code? Same question, repeating for another set of methods, and let us see how it comes up. The previous one, it's given proper substitute algorithm. So here it's given extract method approach, and it's defined the functions, the constances on top and then come up with proper definition of the functions. So here also it's given extract method approach is the better approach for refactoring this code. So both angles, if you know the refactoring approach through a code review or suggestion from your architect team, you can take the help of Copilot to refactor your code according to the suggested method. Or if you think so that your code is so complex or your code need a refactoring, you can take the help of Copilot to suggest what will be the best refactoring approach for your code and act on that. Thank you.